Hi everybody, my name is Jess, your go-to Road to Kingdom dance analyst, and we are here with the Ace of Ace challenge number 2. We got 4 out of the 7 groups to look at, and I'm excited for this because it is the identity challenge. Each group is going to be able to present what track deems is the most effective in representing the colors of their group, and I'm pumped for it, not just because of this challenge in particular, but I have already listened to and analyzed all of the original works of every group that we're going to be looking at today because I've already marathoned them. So we're not going to be looking at secondary material. You can go on Patreon and dive into the analysis that way if you're curious. So I get to really play kind of an audience hat here versus getting extra context because I've already had it. So I can't wait to dive in here. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay.
Each of you are face to face with a world in which the boundaries of reality and dream are no longer in existence. The faint whisper from afar, the reason you stand here is me. My voice will be the guide to your soul. So let me guide you on your last escapade. One you will never want to forget.
That was a cool little illusion there. Okay, I see the 2 aces would be my white and red. I know one of them was announced. He was the ace in the intro stage. I don't see them being utilized as much as they could. Speed change was cool. One of them disappeared. Ah. So is he a mummy per se? Okay. Oh. Cool. Ooh! He did a little press it to a handstand. Okay. Okay. Is he gonna go backwards? No. Okay. Cool. Nice little ending position here makes it clear on who the aces are. So a couple of overview things here. What I find fascinating is I think in every kingdom thus far, there's always been one challenge where one group does a pyramid this kind of Egyptian themed set. I would say out of all the ones we've seen, if you've seen Road to Kingdom Season 1, Kingdom Legendary War, and Season 2 here, who had the best set? In my personal opinion, I still think Pentagon's Follow. Yo, like I had a lot of things to say in a fantastic way there. Here, I don't mind it. Now, I also think too, as a side note, I'm not going to be really honing in on concepts as much this time. We're going to look at the other mechanics of it because y'all saw what happened last challenge. I just think I'm going to be more beneficial as an analyst, just looking at the overall schema on, okay, a big component is our aces. How were they utilized? Where it's clear to know who was who? Did it overall vibe? My personal preference is going to go off of, off of the concept, but I'm not going to make it a whole deal like I did last challenge. Okay, so from the top, I didn't mind this. It is, I'm going to be honest, it is a bit unfortunate for how 8 turn was set up for success in the intro stage. It is a bit hard. I don't feel like this set them up for as much success as I think I was really hoping for them, I think is kind of my general note. I think just for the last challenge and for this challenge, the separation there, of course, we have a couple timbres or different instruments that have a very specific sound context that equates us, if you've grown up on media that has an Egyptian essence about it, you can hear these sounds integrated. Now, are these instruments specific to Egypt? I don't know, maybe to the era in which they're referring to. Not quite sure, but we're gonna move on from that though. He hops up, cool. I understand now. So one of them, I guess, active pharaoh, or he is more of that prominent alive individual, and then one of ours ends up coming back from the grave. Did I feel that this contrast of somebody being raised from death, universally, I don't know if I quite feel that way. Walking forward, he lifts up. I like the illusion. I do know it's probably a boom, like a piston or something that elevates him. It's cool. Fun little illusion. They grab, I like the contact on there, that brrr. I like the movement quality, don't get me wrong. I am definitely a fan of the choreography, and the movement quality is nice. But with prop utilization, hops down. I like the little foom right there, is cool. And I did want 8 turn to use Tic Tac. I think it's a really dope track. What I said was they had those really cool hats in their original music video. I wanted to see what would have happened as like a personal thing if they made a concept surrounding just the embellished hat fits that they had. But we're here for this. We have this crawling going on. They have people coming out. And then we go. I think the vibration from our dancer could have definitely been more refined. It kind of felt like we were isolating more from the leg and the chest, but really making it, if you're going to really extend that way, the whole body has to be involved. So that'll be my note to her. Then we have some dancers. I don't quite know what's going on logistically back there, and this isn't completely closed. So those are just little things that don't feel like it's helping me really dive into who I need to focus on, which is right here in front. Because of this prop right here, they march away. Want to forget, he hits, it opens up. It wasn't as much of a surprise. Now, what's cooler though is these red kind of tassels being attached to everybody. That felt more like a surprise to me, which was really nice. Now, I'm going to also be honest too, it's not really going to bother me a ton if the tracks really feel super similar to the originals, because they're going off of their identity as a group. For some of them, the tracks that they have chosen are already phenomenal as is, so it wouldn't bother me as much for them to just rework it slightly, maybe in different color palette or something. But to me personally, it's not going to bother me as much as other people may subjectively want it to be more reworked, right? But anyway, he drops down, cool. So he ends up doing a costume change. Okay, cool, we're here for it. Love it. So he's now come back from the grave. He's awake, or something along those lines. So he raises this fabric. I think for me, the fabric, it feels really, really long, and it didn't have this nice clean opening here. Like it felt like we were using a fabric to cover up a mechanism, not quite. We had a really nice, clean, intentional, he's dead, you know, it felt like he was asleep, taking a nap, more so, right? So I think that would be my note, because a lot of times, ceremonially or traditionally, not in Egypt at all, but I'm saying a lot of times when you see, there's like a sense of crispness and uniformity that comes into dead things. Does that make sense? It's a very weird thing to say. I don't know if I'm even making sense, but to me though, I like the little red tassels. There's a sense of combativeness. He wraps down. So the layers and levels are cool, but he raises that. But then we have a new person. Oh no, it wasn't a costume change. It was a different person change. So my question is, what was the purpose of it? Was it for the gimmick of it, or was it for the function of projecting and helping me know where do you want me to go? Okay, not quite sure. It was a cool gimmick, just like the first gimmick was cool, and I'm kind of possibly understanding what's going on. I don't mind the LEDs, and we're not really gonna, you know, who knows what Mnet is allowed to do realistically on the LEDs because of copyright and stuff. But I like these choices with the tassels once again, and you have the dancers being combative out. I like that complimentary essence there. So it is, we have two of our members holding it down for the first minute, pretty much. So they're doing a pretty good job. So I guess if it's clarity on Ace, they may make it very well known, my guy in red, my guy in white, if they've never met the group before. Hey, they're doing great. And you have all these little tampers coming in, which are really cool, where you can hear the effort in reworking or adding and embellishing the track that exists, just so it helps tie in a lot of these culturally influenced fits. And here's his other props. The little fan there was cool. Da, 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 da. Now this is a cool setup here where they take it. I like the fan. Yeah, so one of them drops. Great commitment on there on the accent. But my note that I'm going to give here, remember, I'm watching this from the audience perspective. It feels very crowded. Part of it does come from the fact that I see the camera guy. We can't control that sometimes if we really want a certain look. I will say I did watch CRAVITY's from the last challenge, and there were some really cool moments that happened that the camera got, but personally I really wanted from the audience standpoint. But we pick our battles on that, that's fine. But the transitions here, it does feel very like there's so much going on that it's hard for me to really appreciate what's going on over here from a live audience standpoint. Camera's picking up on what they wants to pick up, no problem. But I think that's my note there. They hit it over, dun, dun, dun. They go a nice little scoop to create a sense of fullness in the torso on that. He hits it over it, and I like with my guy, he takes it and ends up threading it behind him, which is nice. And it goes da-da-da, and we go pick it up, and then we go and we're going to end up pulsing inward in our chest on this, and then we do a little subtle Superman over to the side, and then it's just some subtlety with a little scoop of the chest, and then we create some opposition, click, click, opposite go into the outsides, and then we connect to the inside, and then we end up threading through once again, and then we have a couple coming right back in. We have another ace. Now, what I find interesting is that my ace, my ace in white, I know he's the leader of the group too. I find it interesting that we have white fits to match our white ace. I'm assuming they're on the side of him, maybe, would kind of be my goal, because there was a sense of combativeness with my ace in red. So that's what I'm picking up on. Maybe that's the case. I'm excited for context for sure. The melts were nice, and of course this little moment here, that whoo, and then having these speed change melts are really nice. I like how they're framing around the members. And then having this little interaction take place was cool. I wonder if that tickled. And then we twinkle it in, which is cool. And then just bleeding it through. So we're traveling the energy up, wee, and through. We're here for that. That's cool. And then melts over. That whoo, we scoop all the way down. And then we have our next member come up. Then we have our dancer in red. Na, 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 na. So this is fine. We have our dancers, mirroring, creating a sense of layers, and I like the angle because it helps promote whatever angles you're seeing from the shapes made in the back, which should be your pyramids, right? So having that showcase in the choreography is nice. I like the throw there, it's cool. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Yeah, so it's fun. New feature. And so then having your other members, really it does feel like you have your two aces and your members are there as support, which some people take that as they wish. It's fine. Some people have certain preferences on, I want to see the full group and then I can really tell who the aces are. And some are like, I only want to see the aces and make it so clear like you hit me in the face with them, Some people, it's all subjective. We have to remember that at the end of the day, there's not an objective schema that these people are voting on. Some people are always going to vote for their group, even if their group rolls on the floor and sets everything on fire. And that's okay. That's called being loyal to your fan base, right? I get that. But You also have to think there's this, it's just very fascinating. Just the whole shebang of all of this, where I'm trying my best to create a sense of here's what could go wrong, here's what could go right, here's what can work in someone's favor, what can't. You know, I'm just trying to be a sense of description or just help and aid for those who enjoy these groups for sure. That little da 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 da, and then we have a little twinkle from the fingers on that is fine. The drop downs are fine. I will say this is starting to, because we're kind of entertaining a similar structure this whole time. It is good on our white ace to disappear. It sounds bad, but the transition, I still didn't see it even now. That's always a good sign where it's not very clear. Hey, my ace disappeared. You just end up realizing, oh, he's not there, and then you see him revealed right here. So it's a really cool gimmick once again, but the intention behind it, it's always going to go back to that for me. Why did we choose to go with the choices that we did? Is it for the sake of a wow factor effect, like we're pulling out all the stops, or is it there's a reason, like is there a reason for it, right? And to finish my thought, we have our dancers still on the outside and framing around. I think that's been entertained pretty much for the entirety of the course. My personal preference is going to be figuring out different ways to get our dancers to be more invested within the formations. And I know that can be a little bit tricky if you want to have that white ace stand out more. So that's just more of a general note. I am hopeful that we have them engaged in that a little bit more. A little hit over is fine. Tick, tack, and then we go kickball change, which is fine. Always bring it over, do a little roller skates, what we'd call that. And then we BPM change it, which I like. So we do a huge decrescendo, not decrescendo, that goes from loud to soft. It goes from fast to slow. Speed change on the track. The dancers run away, so they're melted. Ta ta ta, boom. And then we have other dancers, they crawl right back on. Now my question is, where did the dancers go and how did they get back on stage? How awkward was this? Did they run over to grab a prop, or did they disappear and a new group of dancers came out? That's a question I would be curious about. So we have now this looks like a ritual. Is this a sarcophagus, something along those lines, you know, a coffin per se? Is it a cabinet? No, I know it's most likely not. If we're tying into somebody dead, I'm assuming whatever you put dead people in, that's what this gives the impression on. He opens up, now he has all this, it's like this, it feels very like paint clay, red clay kind of color, which is cool. So is he showing corruption? Is he showing I'm dead now? Is it we ain't playing no more? Something along those lines, not quite sure, but having your dancers all melt is cool. But then they have these little axes, which, okay, cool, we're here for it. Low-key, it kind of looks like if you've ever played Yu-Gi-Oh! It looks like Monster Reborn, if you've ever played that card, which I have many a times. So it feels like we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In real life, but melted in, which, fun fact, Yu-Gi-Oh! Does have a heavy Egyptian influence, hence probably why I'm picking up on that. Funny. Little chest there, boom, boom, cool. Now, oh, his hand is red. The reaches are cool, boom, boom. I like the little ticking going on from our dancers. I think a general note that I will probably still give this is some of our dancers are not very clear in how they're executing some of their choices, which can affect the overall cleanliness of the routine. That is something I will stand behind. It doesn't feel as refined here, which because you're dealing with the textiles of the type of uniform or costume that they're in, the cleaner you are, the better it's gonna fare for you. Because if you're not, if you're gonna go more individuality, which I would say with the members, you have that modification normally built in for your fans and your audience, but your dancers, they've really got to kind of be on top of it and how clean they need to be, because the tassels are all going to go on different ranges, different timings, because they're tassels and it's fabric and you can't control that, right? Same thing with hair. My hair's going to do it at once, no matter what. I can't control it, and that's fine. You know, I can hairspray it and glue it back or whatever, but at the end of the day, that's when you deal with a heavily like tasseled and ripped and very interesting fabric like what we're playing with, that will affect your timing on a lot of things, and it's not going to look as clean. So you really got to be refined and clean in your dancing. So that's going to be a note that I'm giving there. Rotating through that, cool. I would say the spacing on that is pretty off for some of them right there of the shake. It feels more predictable to me in how we're choosing to use the prop. It kind of just feels like a shiny silver thing that we're using. I don't quite know why we have it out, I think is my question, because we even don't have like an aggressive version of it with our ace and white. But I can see the relationship between the dancers are in relation to our white ace. So then we have our other members. What are their goals? Are they explorers? Are they individuals that are there on the scene? Are they the sand? Are they camels? I don't know, but we're here for it. I love the fits though. I would love to own all of them. They're really cool. So ball change. I love the tongue sticking out. We vibing. So they hit it over. I love that. Like that's that movement where we go and we travel it down with a body roll, but also with kind of ping pong down. I love that on that sound of the track for sure. And then we have a little body roll that our ace does in white with his arms out. They all drop down. We slide back in. Then from here, we roll onto the stomach, and then our dancers go from outside to inside. Boom, boom, boom. And then we have a little back tuck, which is cool. It's giving a smidge like I've seen that set up in an HHI set before where you have people drop, 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 backflip, hide it. You know, once again, a little bit of a predictable setup for me. And my saturation of what I'm used to with large groups, one of them struggled just a smidge. His range was just a little bit off as he got back up from that reverse, not really dolphin, but like a reverse little hinge up. So we reach out, little subtle trace, we cross it over, which is cool. Stylized hands is nice, twinkling it down. I love that. But a good example too is like right here. Are we having our feet together? Are we having our feet separated? Those little details I personally think could be very helpful. I don't know why we're choosing to go shoulder length apart here. We could totally like make it just have our feet glued together. We call it like sixth position, but we have like we're chilling out in the in-betweens here. There's not a lot of clarity on the lower half when we're not doing a ton of movement, and so we're going to be able to scan and digest it a little bit faster in these areas. Those little details are going to help whenever you have your costume that's going to have all these extra materials coming into play. And we basket run our way. I'm always going to make that a note. Basket runs, missed opportunities. And it didn't drop out the lighting to where we could hide that. So that's a big thing. And the lasers. Ooh, bless it. This was a huge disconnect for me personally. Don't know why we have lasers. I feel like, okay, it's time for this really dainty, okay, it's time to sing our bridge. I like his bedazzled fit though, not gonna lie. I am curious. I think personally it would have been cool to make a sense of function with this. Maybe having his in white where he has it all over him, and to where we have a true degree of like complementary contrast, but it could just go for my lack of understanding as to why we chose to have this kind of paint put on him in some way. And we melt down. Now, yes, of course, if you've watched the previous episode or you watched previous analysis, we saw the ace battles between ONEUS and CRAVITY. And with ONEUS, he had the pop, pop, pop with the black paint on it. I feel like I understand that one a lot more, but that was because of added context. But I still stand behind a lot of what I said. Keep in mind the audience that's watching this has not seen any of the ace battles. They didn't see the intro stage or anything. So even if that reminds us of ONEUS, doesn't necessarily mean that the audience is going to feel that way because they weren't there, right? Whenever we got to see it. And then the switchover is nice. So, of course, it makes it clear for the audience, okay, here's our aces. We see them. We're so focused on them. So they're making it clear. Hey, here's our ace. We're vibing for it. They do a little thread through. Then we do a little complimentary Zulu spin. And then he does a backwards roll into a push-up, like a push-up press handstand. That's really well done. And he melts down and we come up. Now, is there a sense of wordplay that we're doing on this? There's always a chance of that, so I'm going to factor that in here. The reason why we chose to go with the concept we did was because of the wordplay or the influence from the original track. That kind of stuff does happen. Or just with the opposition, these two shine the most in this track, so that's why we went with it. We're here with it, that's fine. The reach out's cool. Then, of course, you have your basket runs. It's not as... It's not as impactful our basket runs here in comparison to whenever they left because of the lighting. And that's why lighting can be really important on this. In the reach, I like the little pull there, and then we push. It doesn't feel, honestly, like whenever we're going hit. I know they're singing, so that could be a reason why we're not like really shoving each other, but I always like the believability of it. The reach back's really cool. That was cool. And then now they're all trapped. I'm assuming maybe these mummy-like or those that are being controlled by our white ace have now taken our camel sandmen. They're melting through. Whoo! The little tic-tac. I love their fits. Goodness gracious, I would love to own all of them. They're so cool. We walk, and now they come back in. Now I'm going to give this as a huge no. I'm curious as to why We do. We have our ace in red hanging out over here on stage right, but then we have our ace in white in the center. Normally, if you're going to operate with two people as your focal points, have them as each other's mirrors. It's always my big suggestion. Or have them layered and leveled right behind each other. So I would have personally placed him right over here, but I also understand why they wanted to maintain contrast between his white fit and the other dancer's fit. So it's just, I think that's unfortunate at the end. But he's having his nice high note moment and he's melting in here. So I see now why we ended up having our ace right here in the center with one of them hitting a high note. Could he have hit this right there a little bit more elevated? Which goes back to my previous point of having, if we moved him right here, let's have a little smile. Yay! And let's give him red hair. Okay. If he was up here, and I know that's a logistic thing, right? Just something to workshop. Having him in center would make so much sense, and he would be able to hit his high note, all nice and angsty as such, but not question the balance and question the symmetry. Because get this, who I'm focusing on is not going to be my ace right over here. I see him because he's in red. I'm naturally going to be drawn to that color, unless the stage is saturated in that color scheme. But then also look over here. I'm naturally wanting to look at my guy here over my ace. That can be a note that they get near the end, especially if you want it to be climactic. So yeah, they hit over. That's fun. And a little da definitely gives like a really aggressive Harlem Shake with no groove. Well, I mean, kind of groove, but very, very structured, which doesn't bother me. I don't mind that at all. It's actually fun. I like the unified finish, but that's gonna be. I wonder if that's gonna be something talked about. My ace in center and my ace on stage right. Those two do not feel like they're complementary to each other right now compared to we've seen throughout the rest of the routine. So that's gonna be a huge note. Yeah, hit, tap, 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 which is nice. And they hit it over, the rotation around, which is also nice. They throw, boom, 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 which is also cool. They go down, which is nice. Tastes so yummy, cool. And then it's a little extra, they double up on the pulses going on with these rocks, which is really nice. And then he has his moment. Now my question is, who hit the high note there? I'm assuming it could be one of our aces. Someone's hitting it. I just don't know who. Maybe my ace in white. I don't know. Yeah, also, so I like the triple on that, but then also of the structure of the dancers that you're surrounding, again, in comparison to entertaining different formations. There's a lot of numbers for them. I do feel like we could have found some creative ways to have them enhance environmentally and not just be space fillers. They are coming across that way to me right now. And hitting it over, they hit and they drop down. And then nice little clap. Come on now. The tic-tac. It goes tic-tac. Then we have less dancers, which is fine. And they go giddy, giddy up, high to low, which is nice. And they pulse, or they press, or, oh my gosh, Jess, use the right descriptive words. Take the shoulder and we throw it down to the side of the corner and we move over. I like the steps with the hips and how we're integrating that. So I like that with our dancers. And then we have our props being used. I like the fact they're being moved and you can't see who's moving them. I do like that. Logistic. And he just trots away. And he goes tic-tac. He finishes. And then you see one of my aces crawl. And he slowly comes up to a finish. So I think not once but twice on these pyramids, which is just a smidgen unfortunate that just happens, where we end up very clearly seeing like the movie magic kind of gets spoiled a little bit in the back. So this is an example that I'm talking about, having the contrast and the levels. Like I like that, and then having your dancers low on that looks fine. Like this is a beautiful frame. I don't feel like we got to entertain this kind of imagery or visual as well as I feel like they could have taken advantage of. So I don't know how this is going to place. I am a bit saddened though that this wasn't as impactful as their intro stage. I still think that was their best run, and I'm really, really pulling for them to make it past the second challenge. I don't know who ends up getting eliminated. Please don't tell me. I know some people already know. I'm not trying to find it out. I would naturally find out just based off of the analysis that we do. Oh, another side note. Some people may be wondering, Jess, why aren't you comparing the choreography originally to the choreography here? Keep in mind, I'm really trying to look at it from an audience perspective based on my knowledge that I know going into it. I know all of these tracks. I've heard of all these tracks and I've analyzed all of these tracks. So I'm not going to remember all the nooks and crannies of them, and the audience isn't going to either, unless it's their group. Then they're going to be able to pick up on all the subtle differences. For me, I'm trying to look at overview and look at how the audience vote and why, as well as somebody who has seen all of the groups equally. why certain things are coming across the way that they do, if that makes sense. Okay, moving on. We have the new 6, Love or Die. We get to the Love or Die battle now, aren't we? Come on. This is the first time they have all 6 members doing it, too, is what I heard.
Staring at the sky, 달콤한 기억에 잠기지 너를 봐도 그 순간에 미소 지으며 같은 곳 너와 다른 모습을 하고 숨겨도 원하니 같은 말들 내면서 I wanna give you the world wanna make you feel like the way I kiss girl 너는 나를 미워해 멀어지길 바래 우리 서로 나눈 메시지만 던질게 사랑하리는 뭔데 그동안 외로운
It's very chill, or very, that's such aggressive choreo for the lack of aggressive timbre to justify it. This is fine, but right before that. Wow. Ooh, yeah. Oh. He just stopped right there. He didn't travel it up. I see. Oh, you know what? A really big no. I have no idea who the aces are. Ooh, they may score really, really low on that because I have no idea. Like at all. Just because somebody starts up in the beginning, they're all wearing really, really similar fits. There's no contrast. And so sometimes having a different costume does help. Of course, my goal is I shouldn't have to rely upon a costume solely to determine who your ace is. But here, that could have helped them. Okay, so from the top. Oh, initial thoughts. I really liked how it was reworked. I don't think they're the first group to use this particular like sample. Da 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 da. Like in the Kingdom franchise, I feel like another group has, but I cannot tell you right now at the top of my head who has. And that's okay though. But it has happened before, but I love what they did though. It's cool. All right, from the top. So you have this, you hear like this sound of this ice like freezing, right? So I am curious. I mean, okay. I think it would have been cool, or maybe it's shown and we don't see it. LEDs or something freezing over in a certain way, right? Because in seasons past, because we have to remember, a lot of us have probably seen seasons past, especially if you're a fan of any of these groups, to help prep your brain for how they're going to be operated within the show. That would make sense to me, right? But I know a lot of people may not have, and that's okay too. But I believe it was the boys who did an ice freeze over in no air. That was a really cool set, by the way. But here, that one wouldn't have done well live, personally, because of how it was shot camera-wise, but they also was like COVID or pandemic, is whatever. So now here, with this, I feel like we're used to hearing that sound. We're used to having a visual to help complement this frozen over. Because this little globe or dome didn't have a freeze over effect about it, you had this fog. It didn't feel like we actually represented that sound, or it didn't feel productive in why we had it. And so I think that's my note there. And these little hanging over now, if we, let's say if I'm an audience member from the last challenge who's also in the audience for this challenge, I can tell a lot of these hanging and the way that they're hanging reminds us of their previous challenge. It's cool. We love it. On the butterfly. I also see a couple little butterfly imageries in the LED. It's because I know that's what they like to bring to their sets, but we cannot rely upon that as a means to why they would win or lose or whatever, right? We look at what we're given here. He grabs a nice little angsto moment. They're also using the camera that's live. Do or die. I like the fog in the front with the reach. He melts down. Now, blackout. They're moving him, and it is hard for him to not, like, he has to make sure that he, you know, oh goodness, sorry. So you see with the LED, right? And it just peaked up. We could have totally have had that and still had it blacked out on the sides. I still kind of feel that way. And it would have been a really cool kind of ambiance with the fog for him. So I don't know why we didn't choose to do that, like with the visual. Maybe they didn't have it. I don't know. But that felt like a missed opportunity to me. And so as they pull him back, it's not quite dark yet as they're pulling him, but I see the intention on how they're workshopping the logistics of getting him out of this little dome, as well as how they're closing in the gap on where he's getting peeked through. So now we have this right here with our dancer, and they reach over. So I like this. They've taken her dress. That's rude, but they grab over. But yeah, who's your ace? I have no freaking clue, because they're all having these little moments here. Cool. Reach over, reaching up, the slide down is cool. Now it's a group of 3. The slide through is cool. He's running away. I liked that. And then we have our dancers over here. I think they're locking in, they're locking in this whole little prop setup. It's cool. We're here for it. And then they have a nice little moment right here with this extra fabric, leaning it down. They're also doing this lean back, which is what we saw from A-Turn, huh? So we walk on stage. I appreciate the intention of our members coming over from stage right. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I can see the intention of our dancers in the back too. Like there's always a purpose behind what somebody's doing. I love that as an audience member. There's a lot of camera though. That's whatever. That's life. So now we have more members that hit. Now this is very loud movement for very quiet music, right? They could have totally changed the texture, kept the content the same, and it would have been fine, but it's so aggressive, and he's not singing it with that degree of aggression either. It needs to be bum, 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 more light, dainty. You could still keep the range the same, but it needs to feel more vulnerable, not so aggressive. Because we do end up building to a sense of aggression later, but that's a choreography note I'm going to give there. That is way too loud, way too, like, in your face for what's being said. Like, it feels very ironic or counterintuitive to what I want to receive it as. That part was fine. Da, da, da. Now, that part here too, that's just a huge swing for nothing to justify it. Yeah, that right there. Da, da. No, it's not, none of this is justified to me. It just feels like, feels like movement. This feels better though. So that's the only movement. It's so awkward to me. But then here, it definitely elevates. It gets a lot better. We love it. Yep. Yeah, da 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 da. So I know he's singing cool. And the question is he supposed to isolate it? Yeah, part of me, if you're gonna do this rotation, normally, in our heads, we're assuming that you're going to add an isolation of boot. He doesn't quite do that, so that feels a bit underwhelming or incomplete. The accent down, do, and a boom, boom, boom. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because there's the percussion to justify it. So choreographically, this is killing it. I love this. The build on it's cool. And the hit over, I like the little hits with the, in the scuff kind of over to each side. And we hop, oh! And then the negative effect on the LED was cool. And they melt, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, hit with a little trace all the way down. I like this little moment here, cool. That does, I mean, anytime I see this now, I'm gonna think Free Minds Vanita Vici with CRAVITY, but they don't own that move. Let's just call it what it is, that's fine. But it's just, I'm just used to seeing this little angsty drip from that specifically. They go high, low, boom, boom, and they melt down, boom. There's always a sound for it now. We love it. So I don't know why there was such a disconnect in this pre-chorus the way that it was, but we're moving on from it. It's fine. Really cool. Of course, having the type of architecture that they have in the back environmentally is sick. Melt down. So you have your dancers kind of framing to the outsides. The contrast of colors really help showcase who your members are and who your dancers are. The framing is nice. Love or die. And then you have your members stay low except for your feature in that moment, and then you have dancers come up. So I love that leveled contrast. We're here for that. And they go love or die, yeah. And then you have these ladders coming out from the back, which is cool, but I can see the intention. We're trying to be professional with it. We're not trying to be a distraction. And this is the beauty of having this color palette. The risk in it is that everything can wash out. But what helps is whenever you're choosing to do prop transitions like this, it's not as distracting as if you're wearing a really bold color. So that's something we're going to say yes. But also you do have it, it's a bit more muted in the lighting on the outsides too. We want to focus more on the center. It's cool. We're here for it. They hit it, boom, da-na-na-na, with the swing of the arms, and then we grab it over to our face. Some are connecting, some are not. That would be my note there. And then we go in little melts are fine. And they hit over and love or die like that. I mean, there's nothing nice about realistically like dying, right? But that was a nice little trace over is my point. Now the dancers have moved over. Part of me wishes that we kept the ladder as it was until you're in your spot and then you created the shape, because what happens is now you're creating these incomplete transitions where it just feels like a distraction for me, and it kind of messes with the environmental flow personally. Because they're not creating a contrast of levels to hide that. It's all about hiding the movie magic, or like to where you're hitting and appreciating it. So now he hops through. It's cool. Now some of our guys chose they need to keep it still. You got to keep it still, and they're not. So that's my note to the dancers. You got to keep your stuff still. I noticed it with two of them right here. Of course, when he hops through, I know having to hold it like this is wild and it's tricky. But also, if we're going to choose to do it, commit to doing it and actually do it, I think is my note that I'm going to give that. Yeah, even on the top there. I understand how hard it is. I get it. But also it's a competition, and I have to call it what it is at a lot of times too. So the climbing the ladders, there's a lot of really cool ladder effects on this. And then they come up, it's cool, and then they melt it down. So shout out to these dancers. I do, just as much as I'm being constructive to them, shout out to them for the fact that you have a whole human on the ladder that they have to leverage in levels as well as the contrast and of course melting over. But also it does feel like some of us are relying so much we're fearful, or I don't know. I'm curious as to why that was our final result in our workshopping, because it doesn't feel as, it feels like we kind of stepped out of our character that we were setting up for the sake of doing this cool visual. And it didn't feel as committed as some of the later ladder stuff that we do end up seeing, because I loved a lot of these little partner sections that we see with the ladder, really cool. This part felt very labored, not because the humans and our members that are on them are like, 15,000 pounds. They're not. It's more so to do with the leverage of the weight and getting it to not look so labor intensive to get it to logistically work for your level. It needs to just work, and I don't even need to question it, is kind of my point. So, and they melt over. So the slide throughs was fine. So that was a fun transition, right? So let's take note of that. So when they slid the ladders back, I like the levers that they have here. Actually having the ladder touch the knee creates an extra anchor point, so it's not going to move. But since this one over here doesn't have that, there's a higher chance that it's going to move. And then you have these other guys here. They're not, they're not straight and stiff. And because we have these really stiff and straight lines here, I understand that there's forgiveness because of these abstract choices, right? But it's still taking away, or it's making it look cluttered now instead of structured, because you have the LED in the back that's creating a different texture, then you have this texture going on, or different kind of angles, and then you have these ladders. So it just feels very cluttered very quickly if you're not going to have this match anything that's already been established thus far. And the throw over is fine, and then we go and we throw, we drop down. That was really cool where he goes and does the assist, grabbing on top of the thigh with a kick. Come on now. Yeah, but notice how clean the holds on these are. That's what I wanted to see from the very first ladder hold. That's what you want. Now this right here, here's why. Okay, diving in now. Notice what just started happening. There was a slow, subtle movement coming from the ladders. If they were moving and trying to get them still, we wouldn't have been able to appreciate that nearly as much as what we were able to see. So I'm going to stand by my note that I gave at the very beginning of this ladder section. Very laborious. They needed to workshop it in a different way if it wasn't working, or if something logistically happened and that was just what the run through was. That's life. They get grace. They're humans, guys, right? I understand this. I'm also operating from the lens on, if everything went perfectly, then why did the ladders look that unstable being held like that? Here, you showed me that you can hold them straight and mighty fine, right? Some of them are a little over tilted for my liking, for the fact that you have such abstract things in the back. You need to have a sense of clarity on that. But the fact that they're still, so we can have two of them over on stage right, really slow and lean like that, is a really cool visual. Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's very clear. And once again, they stop moving. That's what sells this section for me. Right, so they have to be still. And one of my guys, it looks like he touched his face. Hold on. Oh no, he just had to he ended up just switching his arms. Okay, that's fine. Okay, nothing crazy. So he has a fun little moment, and then they all accent. Really cool. And then, guess what? Be frozen. And then we're building it up, and they're still frozen. Thank you. And then they pull it to the inside, very structured. I like that. Then we have our dancers or our members coming right back in. They go down and up. And it hit, da-da-da. That was more clear that time. But once again, who are my aces? This is Ace of Ace. So aces are a huge component of the challenges compared to other seasons past. So that's going to be a huge note that will affect their scoring. I will be shocked if it doesn't on the ace side, because I really could not tell you. Even with background information, it's still going to be hard. It should not be this difficult for me to go, oh, that's my ace. You know, I mean, I would assume my guy in the snow globe, he's an ace, and then whoever was doing the rapping at the top, he was my ace. But so they bookended their aces, but they didn't make it super clear. And if I had no idea who they were at all, that could be really hard for me to go, oh yeah, their aces really stuck out. This is kind of the opposite, where it's if you wanted your aces to blend in, they win. They hit it through. So of course our dancers in the back are doing fine. So you have this percussion with the strings in the back. They kick. Same kind of choreo that they did before. So they close in the ladders, and then they have a moment. He grabs, they rotate around. I do find it interesting that we did choose on this rotation. Did we choose to purposely make it I see where they did that. So we had one guy run directly in front of our other guy because they needed him for the assist right here on this ladder. I understand that. And it is technically the first time I've kind of clocked this. So they did a good job keeping range on it. But it's a big but here. So he's here. That's fine. My first three keep it pretty close. But then these two are going really far out. So they're naturally having me look at them because they're establishing a bigger space away from the feature versus my guys right here. But then we have this guy on the ladder. He folds it down, and then they fold, and then they slide. So now he's grabbed. That's cool. So I understand that visual. I do think if we're going to go around, at least try to maintain spacing around it so it doesn't feel so... that felt pretty distracting to me. In that moment, it didn't feel cohesive and it didn't feel clean. And I think that could be because we had really specific spacing for half of them and not really on the other half. And because one of them that kind of deviated out had an extra person, it sticks out more. Yeah, and that right there, it did look a bit labored. He hiked himself up. The best ideal format of that visual was probably going to be they just hike him up and hold it. I know that is probably next to impossible. So the fact they got this visual the way that they did gives them a thumbs up in my book. Great work. The slide in is fine. He gets lifted, so he's down. Cool. He's having a little angsty moment. We reach. Now, I'm kind of glad that they're not rotating while their arms are interlinked. You can hurt yourself really quickly if you're going to put your arm through that hole. So I'm glad that we took a safer approach on that. Or die, love or die, love or die. So I like that little moment with the partner work. That's cool. So these little moments are really cool. And this is the kind of stuff I was talking about compared to the very first ladder integration. And they go away. Then we have this little twinkle twinkle. We have a little solo moment with our dancer, again, over on stage left. The intention behind it, I don't quite know. Is it, in reference to whatever this song is sampled from, possibly? But the little crawl up, part of me also comes from the lens, if you're going to do it, commit to it. But also I understand we got to be very mindful of that kind of stuff as idols too. So I get that. And they melt her around really nice, the little hug. And then we switch it over. It kind of looks like he just bit her neck. They were pulling another little vampire moment like we saw with Crew 1. I don't know. And she goes away. Ba-da-da-da-da-da, which is cool. This is fine. We build it up. And then we have all of our dancers in the back. There's so many of them. It's kind of cool. And then you have one of your members up top. Am I assuming he's ace? I'm not. Which is cool on the feature integration. It really feels like everyone's pulling their weight on it, which is cool. But for the ace section, that's not gonna help them as much. Now we have the heart in the back, heart of ice. And then you have your dancers framed to the outside. They go and melt from outside to inside. And then he has his moment up top. And they do a little crawl. So all this here, it is about to give that, the little drop there. Reminds me exactly of their last challenge, but we can't assume that the audience knows that. So they have this little punch there, like we're breaking this heart. That's really sad. And so we have one of them. I'm assuming these are my aces now. So he has the vocalist right here. Love or die, and it goes, whoa, and now we've just exploded the heart. Whoops. Yeah, just like that. It's cool. Now, because of how they have this structured, I was not expecting the rap section that we got. It kind of felt like, oh, it's over. No, it's not, but not in a good way. Oh, like this would be something that you would need to add at the end because it feels unified and it feels like a finale. So it felt like we went finale and then we dropped down to a verse instead of flipping it, in my personal opinion. So I like the dance break though. So if we go back and actually talk about the dance break. So they go hit, and then like they reach out with their dancers with a pop, and then they go back to the inside, and they go a little tap on that, and they go swing, and then we take the rotation high, low, and then we go and we branch up the energy up to the top, and then we melt it down. I love that choice. Now, how the fog in the back absorbs does give the impression of butterfly wings, doesn't it? So that to me is like a little fingerprint of lore if we're going to go off of that based on their entirety on Kingdom, but we're going to move on from there. Yeah, they go melt, and so we go fans from the outside to the inside. Cool. And that right there is really cool. It goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, a little pot of arrays, allowing the hinge of the body to make that nice and full. So they really kill this dance break. It's great. And they go da-da-da, da-da-da. So I like how we double it up with our arms. We're here for it. And then we have some subtlety on that. It is a bit on the unison, more for my taste on some of these choices. 2 and 3 and da-da-da. Yeah, all that's fine. It's still unison. I think some sense of contrast, but honestly, at the end of the day, that's something I can get over. I'm just somebody that comes from a unison for longer than an 8 count is too long, but I need to get over that. I know that. So here in this lens, they do end up deviating. They do end up doing bleeds and stuff, but this is the second time we're entertaining a bleed out. So going back here, if you look, boom, 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 unison, they end up doing a little cannon first time with melts. And then they do a little ripple. So I like the complexity of that. Then they go from outside to inside. Then they entertain the same dynamic. So it feels repetitive to me. Unison. Yeah, so it literally looks like they took the same dynamic structure and they just replicated it twice, but they just did different content is what it feels like. So I'm going to give them that note. So they bleed it out. Cool. It still melts and they hit. So they're entertaining similar timbres of justification in their textures. And a hit, and we drop, and then we turn here. This feels like a finish, and it should have been a finish there if they were going to do it. Or taking what is about to happen, put that before this. I understand why we're doing this though. Like, I think that's fine. It's fine what they're doing. I'm just saying it really feels like, oh, we're not done. And I don't want to feel that way when I watch something, personally. And I've seen all the groups. So I'm not saying any of this is like I'm not a fan of the group. Not at all. Quite the opposite. I'm watching this show out of support for the fact that I know how hard they're working, and I want to give my perspective within my scope to be helpful for all the choreographers, movement directors, artists, fans, things of the like, to kind of help provide some sense of perspective as to what happened. Did they win? Why could that have been the case? Did they lose? Why could have that been the case? You know? So I want to be here to be helpful. So when I'm saying these things, a lot of it is coming from the lens on, they did a great job. If I was there, I'd be living it up and enjoying it, you know? But rankings take place on the show. Everyone signed up for it. So that's why for me, I don't think that this is going to kind of reflect negatively on the overall general performance of it, but it does just not feel like the structure of it doesn't feel as sequentially like effective the way that I feel like they were trying to come across. The head nods were fine. So I like the angstiness of it. With the fire, cool. Boom. Fire, but bum. So having the dancers was cool. So I liked the clarity of this. It's nice. Having your members there. A couple of the dancers, then you have all the dancers join in. Yeah. And just dance. It's just simple rocks and bounces, which are nice. And they peel it from inside to outside, and they run away. Little party, and then they drop out, and it goes joom joom boom, pop. They could have added that little texture or something on the end, boom, at the end of that little rage room dance break. They needed to flip flop those, and I think it would have felt a lot better. So my gut tells me the two aces are here and here, but I wouldn't tell you what parts they contributed to outside of just seeing him do this part and maybe assuming he did the snow globe part. So that's going to be something I'm intrigued on the scoring side. Love or Die by CRAVITY. We're already establishing a contrast. Oh my god, how'd they get there so fast? Oh, there's a hole in the middle. Nice. Nice. Another person collapsing on someone else. That's funny. Okay. It's like a Fabio serenade. I don't know why he went vroom, did math and music. I don't know how I feel about the, I mean, I understand why they had to put the place back there. I don't think we needed to do that, but I understand why we had to opt for that because of the rotation of the props. Cool. With the line in the center. Cool. Okay, there is something I have to check because that's going to determine what my note is going to be for this routine. Okay, I've returned. I needed to do this because this was a big thing. So there is a huge component of this that I have seen before. It is Dimitasi Project. They won Feedback Competition 2023, and we are going to go look at it after I give this point. I needed to check who was on this because if no one affiliated with Dimitasi Project wasn't involved, that's straight up plagiarism of concept, especially in the same country. That's a no-no. At least with Mihawk, he tried to be creative, and I call that out real quick when it comes to the danger set with the boys. Go look on Patreon for my full analysis for that because I still stand by that. Not respectable for what he did there. But here, they got Jim Ali. Jim Ali is one of the people affiliated with Dimitasi Project, and we're going to pull it up right here. This is the set that they pulled a lot of this from. So my note to her is it's so impressionable what they ended up doing. So we're just going through, looking at all of this. Do you see what I mean? They have the frame, all of this. It's freaking sick. It's cool. This right here, when I saw what happened here, in, I think it was, once they pulled the cube out, that's one thing. That's fine. The reach over was fine. I think it was specifically whenever they started very particular this. When they got to this spot. Is when in my head I was like, oh. That. Is when I was like, oh. Right here. Right? So this is actually my note to the director of the Dimitasi Project. I love the fact that she was on it because this means that this was she gave CRAVITY permission to use this concept. That is awesome. I love celebrating that. However, if I didn't do my time to look, it's so similar. So my note would be figuring out different structures to creatively reframe it. Even as my note to the whoever was in charge of this too. Because it's really cool. Because there was two really big factors. This was a really cool moment. Right? But then there was a second thing where they ended up having two people and they pressed them up. Ooh, look, party of us. So I'm trying to find that too. Because those were the two little moments were really, really sick. The rotation across, using that was nice. Da-da-da-da. They take it, which is also cool. The grab. Now they reworked that, which was better. So I appreciate that. That's why it didn't register to me because they ended up reworking it enough. So that was really cool. There's a little moment. I think it's about right here. Yeah. So they end up having two people with the raised up thing. That's really, really sick. Do you know what I mean? And this happened 2023, so about a year ago at this point. And this is so notable. So if you follow the choreography scene in Korea, I bet you probably noticed this too. So keep that in mind. This ended up beating Just Jerk, fun fact. So that's why a lot of people were like, ooh, I need to see who won, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay. Now that we've gotten our curiosity satisfied, I'm so glad that we were able to take care of that. Now I can actually go through and appreciate it for what it is. I really, really like this. I think my biggest note was, of course, that whole having to fact check or having to plagiarize check. They didn't plagiarize, so I'm saying that right now. They did not. We just pulled up the receipts, and if you go look on Instagram, Gemma Lee, if you look at the full version, they have her name listed underneath one of the choreography heads of it. You go to her Instagram, she's under the same group. It's there, right? Okay, so going to here. This is cool. They have it already set up. I love how they reworked the song, how they showed their aces. It was really nice. I can see them pulling top spot so far. They're the most favored to win so far, okay? Keep in mind too, I think my big note on this too, outside of what we just referenced, was the piano in the back. So that felt very disconnected, as well as the camera was there. How they were playing on the piano didn't make sense with the track. For me, I think they could have done something similar to this with the piano and made it a moment like what they did here, but I understand why they couldn't be back on the props, because they were turning them around. I get that, but it's still, that was a very distracting kind of workshopped element that took place here. That's life. It could just be when they got on site, it just was not fun. That's the only disconnecting part of the whole thing though. So we're going to call that what it is. This is a really, really well done rendition of their track. So they have the piano. It kind of feels like a reprise from like a Broadway show, right? So they have their light. It's cool. The energy on that, they go, boom. I like the little melt on that. Da, 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 da. They go melted in, so I like that choice. Cool. Now, they're not the first ones to use a light gimmick. I like the fact that they have it, they close it in, and they end up tying it in with the LED. It's cool. That's a good way to establish here's our aces, love or die. I love too the focal point choreo, love or die, and I've learned this one, so it's fun. But yeah, cool. And just how it sounds, oh god, it's so cool. Oh, now you do see some logistics going on in the back right there, but you see some of our guys melt through. I have a feeling they're already there. Possibly. No, they drop. Die. There. Oh, they're on the mats, and so then they crawl down. Whee! Woo! And then we have this little cannon with the push back out. How they redid the track is freaking phenomenal. They did a fantastic job. One of the most iconic segments of this track is the ooh, that hit. They kept it. I was so worried that they were going to rework it and not in a good way. Huge risk on a track like this. They did very, very well on it. Or whoever was in charge of the composition. Fan-freaking-tastic job on it. Okay, so you see people coming in, you see other members come out, and the members that are not the aces match the dancers pretty well, to enough to where it's like, you're like, you can't really see the transition. It's cool. So now they're all in, so I like the little branch away, and they run. Basket runs, always a note there. Of course, camera guys in the middle, hard to see. I like the subtlety right here with the hands, it's nice. So I like the contrast with the white on the box, which is nice. The grab, chasing down, da, 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 the lean arounds is cool. Also, that's a logistic thing where, of course, having somebody that had done a whole set with this cube, they understand the push and the pull on how to get this. Whenever somebody leans this way, you have to have a counterbalance, so they understand those logistics. So it's just a lot of moving pieces. I like the lean on that, and then they go move it through, and of course it gives that labored vibe on it, so everyone's intentional with how they're moving it, so it doesn't feel awkward. That's cool. That was cool. I love that. On one arm, come on. Really nice on that, and he's here. And I love this little wave, boom, and it matches the LED in the back. That's cool, it's interactive. Now, the contrast of the red and the black, I don't quite know why we opted for that. Maybe it was just a different color palette and they wanted to show a natural contrast. They could have gone away with earth tones and gone with a contrast, black and white or something. I don't know. We pick our battles on that. I do think that they were pretty cohesive on the other structures of things in comparison to some other cases that we've already seen. That's my note there. The drop downs is fine. All your life. That was cool. The fact he was lifted, I think they lifted him up. That was really cool. That was also different than what I had seen originally. This is cool. They go in. So he's sitting up. And now he's right there, he's down. Now this is all different, right, in comparison to having all of them talk at somebody who has their back against this pole. So I can see the efforts now more so of it being reworked, because in my head, as soon as I saw this, I said, I think you guys saw the look on my face change as soon as I saw it. So now I get to actually like talk about it. Can't stop. So it was can't stop. I think personally it kind of would have been cool it kind of would have been cool if they all did the actual upper body of the Can't Stop This Feeling, but switch up the texture so we're at least paying tribute to the original choreo, as well as it makes it feel like we're tailoring the choreo to the original in a different structure, if that makes sense. But that's just my personal note. Feeling, water keep falling, falling. So I like the reaches. So he has this moment, and that was cool. So they all lean. Love or die. So they reach up. So we have two other people up at the top. Now, what I find interesting here is that we see, this is a good example, everyone. Notice you have your aces. They are in contrasting colors. They have the white in play. Everyone else has the red and the blacks. So the aces are in white with the white shoes, even down to that choice. This is the kind of stuff that I was giving notes on in other challenges with other teams. The intention, even down to your shoes, really can affect what I'm wanting to look at. So here I can clock it a lot easier. The lift up, I think I was so distracted by this and how much this reminded me of what we all clearly saw at this point. And of course, I would say they need to lift it up a little bit more evenly on this side. I'm curious if they got the dancers from this project on it, or if they had a different group of dancers. It's whatever. But anyway, my point is this. This was my note that I gave 8 turn in the very first walkthrough. This is the reason why. Look, it's balanced. You have your aces mirrored with each other because it's 2 aces, not 1. So you can't always have them as your point. You can, but you need to not have one of your aces just disregarded for the sake of a section if they're on stage 2, I think is my note for that. So they lifted up. Oh, okay, it was in a transition, my bad. So a little angsty moment, so they need to look natural. They're moving it around, which is cool. And they throw it up, boom, cool. Yeah, so none of that, I would say, is probably tailored into some of the original choreo. That's not the original choreo for the chorus. Drop down. Which is fine. So that's fine. Little reverb, boom, boom, boom. So now we have a different little weather coming in. We have little things growing on this stump, which is cool. Fun. So I like the reach up there with our dancers. Everyone's nice and low, intentional. The separation is cool. And then I like the little slide over. That's fun. So from one side to the other. Nice. Hit it up. No, love or die. Crazy. And then they pick it up. Cool. Nice. Nothing crazy there. At least they're being intentional with it, bringing it away. They're starting on a certain time to move it. They're not just moving it because, oh, it's time for it to be done. So that's nice. Little psycho. The throw's cool. Boom, this right here. So I like the spacing between our aces. It doesn't feel too off-putting. So we have a different member. Boom, boom. So now it's all foggy of the rain. Cool. Nothing crazy there. The reach over, the twinkling with the bleed. Cool. Boom, boom, da, 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 da. Cool. Nice syncopated. I like that with the anti-gravity effect right there. It's super cool. I'm trying to see. Okay, cool. And the pulse, boom, boom, right there on the sounds, percussion sound, which is nice. And bringing it back. Falling, turning it in. And I like this subtlety. Making it simple to know who needs to be featured if it's not your ace. Hidden with the syncopation of the taps. Love or die. Click, 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 click. Cool. The pulses are nice. And then right here, of course, we're using stones, a little overlap and that kind of stuff is cool. I like the fact that we have something that's at least connecting what's going on with these props. And then pull over. Cool. And then we have the straight line. And it's even, I think, right? Let's look. This is another example. Your aces are mirrored and you have somebody in between them, partially to have them separated. That's helpful, but also to make it symmetrical. This, we love. And they run. It doesn't bother me. I'd rather them run like that than basket run, in my humble opinion. Yeah, hitting it over. Fold it down. Subtle, subtle up. And then we go bleed it over. We walk. Now these little fits do remind me, you change the color palette and what do you get? You get the boys, Uno and Fantasia with their skirts, but this doesn't tying into that really as much at all, which is fine. The melts are fine, the raise up is cool. Now here, this would have been cool to have them back up on the ledges in some way to tie it in, to at least be like a checkpoint to some degree, maybe having the light and they look over at it, or with the piano interpreting it like they did in the beginning, but because we got a piano out, it felt like, okay, why did we choose to do that? Especially if we're not even gonna actually play it well. Da-da-da. It drops out, and they walk away, and then you have this, it's like Fabio's entered the chat. Okay. Now this, the meltdown's cool, so he's playing it. So they all slowly come up and crawl away. This is for camera, D. They come back up, okay, fine. And then they race around, he's lost some stability there. And then they all twinkle the fingers in. There's not a sound to justify that. So if you're gonna have a physical piano and make it look like you're playing it, then actually freaking look like you're playing it. Don't just make it it just feels like a prop. You don't need it. They really didn't need this. They could have had a light. They could have done something on the ledges. They could have literally done anything except for do this, in my humble opinion. They race around that little... And then it could have, honestly, they could have made this a really cool moment in the transition. They could have had them on these platforms because there is a freaking rail on it, so they can hold on to the rail as it turns. And it still makes it a fun moment, and we get to see the beauty of the reveal and actually make it a moment and make it a thing, and not oh, all of a sudden the flowers are there. Maybe for camera that's the case, but as a live audience member, I would already see the flowers, but it just kind of looks like, oh, I needed to be surprised there. But you just make it a moment, honestly. That's my hot take on that. Like, come on, like that's cool. And I know that they're really not trying to make it a thing because it's darker there. And then you have members coming out back in from the outside to the inside. So maybe it wouldn't have bothered me the piano so much if they actually made it look like they were playing it. Like, because it's not trying to be humorous either. It's trying to be dramatic and it's trying to make it like a thing. Be accurate to some degree. If you're gonna do that. And then there's your light right there. Cool. So look down. That part, I really couldn't see that moment until just now. So that would be my note there because you had all those lights in the back. Really? And then you have the drop right there. It's cool. Nothing crazy there. Still have your aces mirrored. Love it. Love or die. All this choreography, let me see. It's all syncopated. It's all like that Franklin Yu influence crew choreo. I mean, that's just what it is. It's not the most complex thing in the world. Yes, it does require you to use your back, but it's not creative to me. It's just a typical way that you see crew choreographers use a syncopated, isolated sequence. If you've been in the crew choreography scene, you've seen that. So, a love or die, hit it over, like they're doing a Dougie maybe, but very stiff. I'm not saying that as a negative thing, but more so as like a whoops. But more so it's just like a gesture. Make it clean. They heal me. I like that. That was fun. And they drop it out. Boom. Da 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 da. Cool. They drop the fabric there. It kind of feels like we're just adding a lot of these things, but we're not recognizing that they're things. I think is what it feels like. It's like we have these flowers, but we're ignoring them that they're there. We're looking at these flower petals falling from the sky. We're ignoring that they're there. And then this whole little fabric. It dropped out. And guess what? We're just dancing. So it kind of feels like the stage is falling apart. It kind of gives that impression more so than we're making and we're causing these things to happen. And they melt it in. I like the love or die, and you still have your aces mirrored. Thank you. Then you have your dancers going from the side. Boom, boom. And they go low to high. I like that choice. And then look, now it's a fun castle. Sweet. So now I guess it was a stone, and then as they make flowers, they turn into this magical, it's home now, something along those lines. I like how it's framed. It's pretty. And then I like the little heel toe. Nice. It does remind me of similar to what they did in the original. And little pickups, da 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 da. And they throw, and they go punch punch. And they go in, out, they throw. I like the fullness of the sound. They're matching it there. I love that right there. That is tribute to the original choreo. The melt ups are nice. Down, up, they rotate. Oh, oh. Then they go throw it out. And they go down. That's enough or die. Now they come back up. And then they have it. There's the star. And they look to the back. I think they could have made the usage of these way more of a thing than they did. That's just my hot take on that. But in general, I'm very happy that we actually did due diligence and didn't just steal something, that we actually asked the people, worked on it with the people involved, and were able to make a set. They should score very well with this because a lot of the creative aspects, and a lot of people in the K-pop scene are not in the scenes of that I'm in. So like with feedback, with a lot of other competitions, they may not be like on that side of things, and that's fine. They may not pick up on it. They may be like, oh my god, it's the coolest thing ever. That to me, it wasn't the coolest thing ever because I'd already seen it done. So it's not as creative, but also I like the fact that they still integrated it and it's still cool. Okay, finally we have Unite's Waterfall. Now this one, they were at the beach when they shot it, I think. It's giving Only One Of when they reworked Rain's set, is what it reminds me of. And then it reminds me of... Yeah, that's fine. Strings are pretty on this. That's nice. You can see them like fixing the fabric in the back. Oh man. Wow. That was a good quick change. Not United Kingdom, the Unite Kingdom. I see what they say, Kingdom. Viva Las Unite. Are we trying to go like ringleader with our outfits? It is interesting why we chose the type of coats that we did. I like the costume change, cool. I will say my aces, I feel like one of them feels like an ace and the other one, the only reason why I know he's an ace is because he's wearing the same thing. Now he feels more like an ace. Cute. Ah, fun. It's the ace show. I would have died if we have some tap dancing. You know what I mean? That would have been so fun. Ah. And they lived happily ever after. Cute. It's cute. Yeah, I kind of stand by what I'm saying though, where like my ace, he felt like an ace, and he felt like he's an ace by association with costuming. Second half felt better. First half, not so much. So that's my big note on the ace side, but nothing crazy. That's not going to be a deal breaker or anything. Flow of it, beginning felt like how it felt. I already kind of noted that. That's fine. He goes through. He's like, the show's over, and you have the curtains, and then you have people take his mic away. See, I didn't see the mic, and then now I see the mic because we got back and looked. Okay, so he goes, and they have him attached. So I guess if this, are we drowning? Is it paralysis? Something along those lines. He looks paralyzed, or if he's just floating in the air. This is a cool little sound. The grabs are cool with the fog. Come on now, and that little crinkled upness is cool. His commitment to character is great. I think it's because he starts out as a soloist. It feels like we only have one ace. It's probably that. And they close it. Burn. Now, how's the timing on that? They were supposed to close out at the same time. Timing was off on the actual slide, so that's my note for whoever was in charge of the curtains. But it could be an audio overlay thing too. So now, instead of having your second ace come out, you instead have another member. Because in my head, I'm assuming, okay, this is my ace. Now, also, I do know in the beginning, they like show the little wing, ace of Unite. And then they like have the LEDs on it. So at least the audience has some leeway in knowing who's the ace and who's not. But I'm telling you, there's some routines we've seen that it is really hard to know who your ace is. The melt away is fine. This is fine. And so he grabs his wrist, lifts him up. So it feels a sense of comfort, or a sense of like the lyrics really matter in this lens. Then the lift is fine. Now I don't know where the sound's coming from. Is it coming from behind the curtain? He's lifting up because it's not my feature right here. It's not my ace here. Now there's another reach. Once again, not our ace, not our second one. And they go away. So now we have our two right there. Then we have two aces. Now, is there wordplay that duplicates him? Maybe that justifies that in the function of it. But I know for me, I wish that I saw both aces first instead of one of them for the first minute and then the second one comes in. But they do a pretty good job. They mirror each other as well. Good energy. The little crescent moon vibe is fun. The little melts are fine. I love the dancers in the back, creating a fun level and layer in the back. And then I like how they melt it. Cool. They drop down. Oh, bless their hips on that. You notice it went boom, boom. Goodness, that's fine. So you have your next members come back in. And they do a nice little grab. They pull up. Bum, bum, bum. And they melt in and they go up. Click, click. Ah, little peekaboo. And then we have all the other members come in. So I like this dropout. No. Boom. And the melts on that's really fun. So they go up. Take it over, like the twinkling. The strings are gorgeous on this. The swing, I like the little jump out of that. It's just butterfly, jump. They reach, they go in. I like this choice. Ding, ding. They go in. Continue the flow. They drop it. Now, whenever you're choosing to have water in your theme, that's always something that I love seeing as a waiver. Waving, maintaining flow. So making everything have a sense of really good phrasing to flow through between each individual sequence is really nice. So the wave is nice. So this right here, I like the fact that we have different members pausing. So we had our first ace, and then we have our outliers on the outside of our regular members. They're frozen. And then we have two more freeze, so that's symmetrical, but you still have it more popcorned. That's a really, really cool dynamic that they did just then. They melt away, one of them there, here, and then we have another ace. So that was a nice way to get your aces to have each their own moments. That was cool. I think part of me wants more of this kind of stuff in that beginning. But I liked the beginning. It just goes back to when you have two aces, maybe that beginning would have worked if you had one ace, but because you have two, it wasn't, I don't think it set the beginning as much for success as I think it could, but that's just me. Down, up, I like the melts, cool. Then you have this twinkle it in, and then you have another member right here in the center, the reach, and then of course another little like fix the curtain. Leave it. Honestly, it's like it wouldn't have been a thing for me. Like leave it there. Don't push it out. Or maybe somebody got caught on accident. That would be my guess if that's really what happened. And they take it up and they throw it down, and they're like boom, the accent there. Come on now. And then right here, I keep thinking the United Kingdom. Now, if you live there, please let me know if that's what you thought whenever you heard this the first time. So what they're wearing, I don't quite know how it tailors to this Viva Las Vegas, let's party time, right? It feels very, what is it? B2B did something like that. But their costume made sense to the function of the story, right? Now, they go through, cool. I'm just telling you, side note, this is really hard for me to not be influenced off of concept because I was using that so heavily in the last challenge, but really knowing how my feedback was tailored based off of it, I'm really trying not to, but it is hard to like touch on other things and not that when I'm so used to it. So please forgive me if my analysis today just feels a little bit off. I'm learning, I'm human, right? But anyway, the costuming here, it doesn't really, like, I like the contrast, it's cool. I love the costume change, it's cool. And I really like the fact that the aces ending up changing into like an all white fit. The ace costumes are cool. How does this tie into a lot of the water that they used in the beginning? I don't know. Maybe it's a, hey, viva la vida, like Vida Las Vegas. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, where let's not worry about the qualms and the stresses of life. Maybe that, I don't know. Here's the thing, I'll have all of these things answered in the episode. So I do know that it's gonna be fine. Going around, it's cool. So we have this moment, which is nice, to go high, and they exit there, they go in, kickball change, dun 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 dun, I let a little shampoo, they go, hello, look at all the people. And then they look, da da da, and they reach over, I like the little trace down, so I like having the members and how the dancers are joining in. The personality is really cute, and I love how he says, we're diving. That was really cute. I like the clap and claps, and then they trot, 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 and then, look. You have an ace come out and he's just in a costume change. It feels like he's not as valuable as the first ace. Does that make sense? And I think that's my other point. Like, he's there to help create symmetry for our ace whenever they're featured together, but it still feels like the leader is taking too much responsibility as an ace. He needs to put more responsibility on our other member. So that's that. I will hold that down. There's no reason for this ace to be out without our other one if he's not the feature. He wasn't a feature at all for that. So they rotate down and up, and I like that little high, and then they drop down, hit, boom, boom, and they look over. And then we have another feature here. So this concept, I don't mind. I don't think it's practical for a 2-part ace challenge. I think this would have worked maybe in a future challenge, I don't know, but this concept does not work for the 2-part aces when that's being measured. Now, do I think there's other groups, like I said, that really didn't show their aces nearly as well as they could have? Yes, and that can help them. So I don't know how their ace ranking is going to go, but I do think their team ranking could probably score higher than their ace, just based off of what we're looking at mechanically. But I will stand by that. Make this ace a moment. Let him shine too. It kind of feels like you're just trying to use him to meet a requirement, not actually use him, you know? Anyway, the melts are fine. Boom, boom. So he has his moment. It's cool. Boom, boom, over. And then he gets revealed from the back. So, like, I understand why they had him there, but they didn't need him there that early. He could have literally been from the other side, creating a sense of symmetry, balance. There are curtains on the other side. Why didn't we have him over there? So, and the leans are really nice. I love that. And then, of course, fireworks for days. Feels like Disney World. That's life. That's life. Da 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 da. And they reach over. Cool. And then right here, these little jump ropey, oh my gosh, the elastic kind of strings, they're cool. Now that right there, hit in the hit, that's fun. We're here for it, nothing crazy there. And they go, hey, I love that splash. And then they go from the fireworks back to this. So I do feel like we're kind of alternating between these two contrasting, like water and we're drowning and all this. And then all of a sudden we're here and it's all lights, camera action and that kind of stuff. So it doesn't quite translate the contrast, but it could be a lyricism thing, or it could be if there's a movie or something that does create this, we're in one world and we're in another world and the transitions and there's a certain element that showcase that. I would love to know that too. But if they're able to describe it in the episode, I'll listen to it there. So now they've pulled it back. Cool. So they grab, so that's cool. Like, this is a great ace moment. I like that they say ace on the top. So they're directing the audience, hey, look at us. We're the aces here. The kicks are cool. The contrast there, really well done. Definitely feels like this is our act, because if you've seen like White Christmas or that era of movies where they had people on set or they had shows and they had performances like this is why in my heart I was like, man, if they pulled out some tapping right now, I'd be a happy camper. But learning tap in 2 weeks in a high stress environment is not the best idea if you've never done it. So, but that's just something that I thought in my head. That would have been really fun. Now this right here, they ended up doing a little bit more house, which is a footwork style right there. A little, I don't know, is it heel ball change. Nothing crazy on that. And they go, they pick it up, and then they pull it. So I like the fact that they grabbed and then the dancers moved away. And then a little swing. They go, brrr. I like how they let it go right there. Nice and intentional. I like that. Thank you, dancers. They go in and then they reach up. Thank you. Intentional. We're here for it. And then they go, and then the sways are fun. And then you have your other, what is it? Your other performers or dancers pushing them over to the sides. And then you have your water. So it keeps dropping back to this water. So are they reminiscing through lyricism when it drops out? Because I kind of feel like we have these timbre contrasts. So I don't feel like this is super off-putting like you would expect it to be, because I think the music is guiding the contrast in some way, but I just want to understand why the contrast is there, which is why in my head what I'm thinking of, unless it's a movie reference or some lyricism, is that why? Something along those lines. I just want to know, because I want to appreciate it for what it is, and maybe I will in the episode, but it does feel like we're really trying to force a choice, like we're forcing the water in because it's about waterfall, or we're forcing this Viva Las Vegas vibe into it. Like it doesn't feel like they're meshing as well, but the music is at least making it not such an awkward jump as much. So that's what my note is there. I'm just curious. But I love this. I love the dancers. I love the comicalness about it, but it's like not comical like making fun of. I like the fact that they're committed to character, more so that. So they walk forward. Are these supposed to be influences off of like sailors, something along those lines? Some of them do give that vibe, where in the Navy, if you're curious about this, a lot of times, depending on if you're an officer, you have this little like knotted tassel thing, and at least in the United States Navy. So I don't know if his gives more Navy, his gives more la da da. I don't know, Matador. I don't freaking know. Anyway, but yeah, that's what my gut tells me, is we're trying to go off of the little like sailor influence. But because some of them are giving like that medieval Dracula vibe, it doesn't feel that way. Dracula on the sea, baby. Anyway, that's fine. They go forward. Cool. And then from there, we have the fireworks. So maybe that's hybriding between the two. Honestly, it reminds me of Brave Girls and their set from Queendom 2, and the smidgen disconnectedness of that. But that's whatever. It is what it is. The punch there is fine. Okay, Jess, stop talking about concept. You already said you wouldn't. Okay. The melt there, so with the dancers being nice and low. The walk forwards. I appreciate the mirroredness of our members here, of our aces, so it doesn't feel like one is in white hanging out over here on stage right, being neglected in that way. He is still neglected in some ways in feature moments compared to our leader. That is a note I'm going to stand behind. Regardless if, our leader, our guy in red, he's telling the story and he's this, and the other. Once again, this is a 2 ace battle. This is not a 1 ace battle. That would have worked if it was last challenge, but not here. So that's why I'm sticking to my guns on that. But here, I appreciate the fact that they're mirrored. Thank you. And then we have this really fun moment. This is a really nice moment. And now, would some people possibly note that our member here, his vocals really stuck out, and that would make him give the impression of being more of an ace than our other ace? Maybe. But, I mean, at least in the colors and the costuming, it helps to see. But I will tell you, if he was not in a costume, I would not have claimed him as an ace for this challenge specifically. So that's my big note. The melts there are really cool. So the melts is cool. So you just have your members on the first one. Punch, which is cool. They rotate. That was a really seamless add-on where they pick the perfect spot in the movement to integrate your next members. God, that was really well done. And then they rotate. Da-doom, doom. Yes to this too. And then you have dancers setting it up in the back, but it doesn't look off-putting. Nice. They melt it up. Boom, boom, boom. And they go low. Nice little hands. And then now we're back to Vegas. Okay. So we have our horn section. Now this right here, boom, boom, da, da, da. I've heard that called the fila. I've heard that called a part of a prep variation, something along those lines. So please don't take my word for it. Go be curious about that. That is one of those things that I've heard it called 15 different names. The one that falls off the top is a fila, but I also know a fila is this. But also I've heard pepper seed for that, or world of dance. It's wild. Anyway, that is an old school hip hop fundamental based move that we're seeing there. It's fun to see here. They go punch, punch, and then we go out in, and then we rotate the arms. Fun. I love the cleanliness of the horns, thank you, or the trumpet, thank you for that, because that kind of stuff can just look really awkward, but I love the intention with the rock back. It's fun. And then over, and the rotation is also really fun. I love the little cradle, it's cute. And then they go clap, and then they go out in. Definitely gives that little tone wop vibe, doesn't it? They did more kicks versus, but with the arms, nothing crazy there. And then we pull and pull, nice. Ball change, down and up, and down and up. Yeah, I do feel we march it just a little bit, but that's whatever. It's nothing crazy. And then he has a cane. We opted for, I guess, a contrasting cane, but the canes give Christmas. They don't give Broadway. They don't give Vegas show or anything like that. But that could just be me and my lived cultural experience. But also that's concept, whatever. Prop utilization, I understand the contrasting colors. You can very clearly see it, but that's the risk you run with it too, because it's such a vibrant color, you can tell when it's off. So that's the risk. Just like if you wear metallic gloves, whenever you dance, everything gets looked at with a fine-tooth comb, right? So the ponies are nice, and they take the arms up and down. Waterfall, and they go and expand it around. Where's the water? I think this would be a fun time to have the water, right? And they bring it over. Now, of course, you notice there, some of our guys, their stick, or their cane kind of shifted a little bit. So you'd want it really glued down. Unless there's not a stopper at the bottom, then it can be really hard to do that. The kicks. But I like the tail end where they kick it on the end right there. Waterfall. Burr, burr. Maybe they were showcasing a horn influence on that, possibly. Go down, up. Then heel toe. They go hit and hit, which is also nice. Then they go and allow this cane to create not a trace moment, but an influential, like, puppeting moment onto the leg as it goes and it rotates out, which is nice. Ball change, and then they do a little shamrock, super subtle, and then we take our hands down, tap it down. Of course, my guy, my ace here, I don't think he put his all the way down. And then the dancers in the back, I love them, and they fold down, and they get their canes taken away, and they're like, party, party. He kind of feels like a hype man, almost, because look, he's even like, here's your mic. And he's like, look, it's our mic. And then they're like, party! We did it! Good for us! Yay! Happily ever after with the blue. I like the blue drapery. That's nice. Love it. Clap, clap, clap. Now, I will say this. In the beginning, because there was water in the back, it was hard for me to realize that the blue was the blue cape once the water LED screen came on. So that would be just an observation there. But man, this makes me very curious about the context behind a lot of the choices made in these sets. I'm not 100% sold on my perspective, really, for the most part on these. This is something where concepts really matter a lot, and this was the first time I'm trying to avoid concepts like the plague, because I didn't get necessarily like hot water, but some of you guys were like, Jess, you didn't know that show. No, I didn't know that show. And that's okay that I didn't know it, because it's not in my scope to have to know that. The sets that we look at have to be universally cohesive regardless if I know them or not. And so for me, I try to focus on the other mechanics because I know that's a more respectable approach that I have in my scope. But I'm just going to be honest and say, like, I want to be able to look at the concepts and go, oh, I get it. But now I feel like I can't. So that's something that you guys in the comments let me know. How do you guys want me to approach these moving forward? Because at the end of the day, I want to do this to be helpful, to put out fires in the fandoms, to make it to where these groups can be celebrated and we can appreciate them, but also be honest and talk about the mechanics of the set and what works and what doesn't work within my particular scope. I want to be helpful, and right now I kind of don't know how. So if you guys can let me know, I want to be able to tailor it to whenever we analyze the other ones next week. I would appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. I'm enjoying my time with Kingdom, especially because it's active and I get to be right in it with everyone. And I want to hear from you which set so far really stuck out to you in the overall cohesiveness to your perspective and what you were able to glean from it, whether it's influenced from the episode or not, as well as who was your top ace here, or aces, because it is about two of them, not just one. For me, I really liked CRAVITY's integration of their two aces. It felt very clear to me, and I loved the intention of where they were placed in the formation throughout the routine. I do like what YOUNITE did, but of course I had those big notes to say, and then I would say THENEWSIX unfortunately did not showcase that ace energy that I feel like could have really helped them in their scoring for that portion of the challenge, but their set overall was pretty well done. And so I'm just curious from you guys. And with 8-turn, I love the fact that they went with Tic Tac. I don't know how their set's gonna fare, unfortunately. So I'm really hoping that everyone, I don't wanted nobody to get eliminated, but of course that's not how Road to Kingdom works, which I find interesting compared to all of them. But anyway, you guys know me, I know you, I'm Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.